The radio crackled at 3:47 a.m., jolting Dean Maddox from restless sleep. All units, domestic disturbance on Maple Creek Road. Dean's weathered hands found his badge in the darkness. 3 months of mandatory leave after Marcus died. His partner gunned down during a routine stop. The nightmares hadn't stopped. Unit 47 responding, Dean radioed. The department paired him with Officer Bryce Keller, 25 and eager. Dean appreciated enthusiasm, but something about Bryce's constant approval-seeking grated his nerves. The call was nothing. Drunk teenagers. Returning to the station, Dean noticed something glinting on the passenger floor where Bryce sat. He bent down, picked up a small emerald earring. His blood went cold. Custom piece he'd commissioned for Emily's 30th birthday. Tiny inscription, "Forever D&E, barely visible unless you knew to look." He'd saved months working overtime to afford it. "Something wrong, Sarge?" Bryce asked, sliding back in. Dean closed his fist around the earring. "Just thought I saw something." At home, Emily was awake in yoga clothes, sipping tea. Auburn hair and a messy bun, she looked younger than 42. "How was your shift?" she asked, not looking up from her phone. Dean held out the earring. "Found this in the squad car. Looks familiar." Emily went pale, but recovered quickly. "Oh, that old thing? Lost it weeks ago. Must have fallen out when you gave me a ride." Forced laugh like breaking glass. "Probably a dozen, just like it, around town. Chain stores mass-produce everything?" Dean knew his wife's tells, touching her throat, voice tremor, avoiding eye contact, 20 years of watching her lie about forgotten anniversaries and hidden bills. Right, mass-produced. Over following weeks, Dean noticed things. Bryce made casual references to Dean's personal life. Emily taught hot yoga Thursdays. Dean preferred coffee black with 2 sugars. Information never shared. Emily changed too. Woman who complained about slowing metabolism suddenly spent 3 hours at the gym nightly. New workout clothes, makeup for exercise, phone obsession. "Meeting Sarah for dinner," she announced Tuesday evening. "Sarah from the studio?" "No, Sarah Hendricks. Book club." Dean nodded. Emily never mentioned Sarah Hendricks, and she'd quit book club months ago. After she left, Dean drove to Emily's book club. Her car wasn't there. Checked 3 restaurants. Nothing. 11 p.m., Emily's car returned. Flushed cheeks, disheveled hair, claiming Sarah wanted wine 2 towns over. "How was the wine?" "What wine?" she asked, avoiding eye contact. "Again? You said wine bar." Emily's eyes darted. "Oh, right. Fine. Good, I had red." Next day, Dean visited Radio Shack, purchased GPS tracker. Military training taught patience and precision. Skills serving him well now. He attached the tracker to Emily's Honda while she showered. Within hours, monitoring her movements. Route to gym accurate, but only 20 minutes before driving to secluded county areas. Logging roads where teenagers parked. Dean's jaw clenched, watching the red dot remain stationary for an hour. During their next shift, Bryce seemed chatty. "You're lucky having such a devoted wife. Emily always talks about how proud she is of your service." "When did you talk to Emily?" "Around town." "Small place, everyone runs into everyone." Dean's grip tightened on the wheel. Right. That evening, he cloned Emily's phone using digital forensics software. 10 minutes while she showered. The messages made him sick. Unknown contact. "Can't stop thinking about today. You drive me crazy." Emily. "Never felt like this, like I'm finally alive." Unknown contact. "When can I see you?" "Tomorrow night." Emily. "Meet usual spot around 8. Unknown contact. "I'll bring wine. And that thing you like." Emily. "You're terrible. I love it." Weeks of such messages. Unknown contact. But the relationship's nature was clear. Next evening, Dean told Emily he'd work double shift. Instead, parked his truck on a hill overlooking the remote turnout where GPS indicated Emily spent 3 evenings. 8:15 p.m., Emily's Honda arrived, followed by familiar department SUV. Through binoculars, Dean watched his wife embrace his partner in headlights, silhouettes merging in passionate kiss that felt like a dagger. They disappeared into the SUV over an hour. Emerging, Bryce helped Emily straighten clothes before walking her to her car. Intimate familiarity suggested this wasn't their first meeting. Dean sat in darkness long after both vehicles departed, breathing shallow, vision tunneling. 20 years of marriage reduced to cheap affair with a kid barely older than Emily's students. Betrayal cut deeper than Marcus's death. That was random violence, tragedy without personal malice. This was calculated deception by the 2 people he'd trusted most. Following days, Dean conducted military precision surveillance, installed audio devices in Emily's car using undercover equipment, positioned trail camera at the turnout, capturing plates and timestamps. Recordings were damning. "Dean's getting suspicious," Emily's voice crackled. "He asked about the earring." "Which earring?" Bryce responded. "The emerald one you pulled off me in the squad car." I said it wasn't mine, but cops notice everything. "We need to be more careful. Find somewhere else." "I can't keep lying, Bryce. 20 years of marriage, but God, when I'm with you, I feel 22 again." "You are desirable." Dean doesn't appreciate what he has. He's been distant since Marcus died. Physically here, but emotionally checked out. "You deserve someone who sees you." "I know this is wrong, but I can't stop. Don't want to stop." Dean turned off recording, staring at rain streaking his windshield. Emily's words about feeling 22 stung because they revealed truth he'd been blind to. Somewhere in marriage routine, he'd stopped seeing his wife as a woman, started seeing her reliable, predictable. But that didn't excuse what they'd done. At the station, Dean began isolating Bryce, assigned him mundane tasks, evidence filing, traffic duty, parking violations. When Bryce complained about boring assignments, Dean shrugged. "Everyone pays dues, kid. Marcus and I worked traffic 3 years before catching our first real case. But Sarge, I thought we were partners. Show me the ropes." "I am. Rope starts with learning patience." Bryce's visible frustration deeply satisfied Dean. Kid wanted excitement and recognition. Classic rookie mistakes Dean could exploit. During routine patrol, radio crackled. "Unit 47, reported break-in at 1247 Oak Street. Elderly homeowner thinks someone's in basement." Dean took winding route through neighborhoods instead of direct path. "Sarge, Oak Street's back that way," Bryce pointed. "I know these streets better than anyone." "Trust the process." Arrived 15 minutes late. Mrs. Chen stood on porch with baseball bat. "Definitely someone down there, heard footsteps and voices." Dean sent Bryce to check basement while interviewing Mrs. Chen. Through window, watched Bryce descend stairs with flashlight. Basement was empty except storage. Dean had called ahead, asked Mrs. Chen to make the report, promising quick response to legitimate neighborhood concerns. "Anything down there, Officer Keller?" "Nothing, Sarge. Old furniture and Christmas decorations." "Check again. Be thorough." Bryce spent 20 minutes searching while Dean chatted with Mrs. Chen about her husband's military service and neighborhood security, productive community policing, but also dominance exercise, making Bryce do busy work while Dean handled meaningful interaction. Back at station, Dean overheard Bryce complaining to Martinez. "Feel like he's treating me like a rookie. I graduated top of academy. I know how to clear buildings." "Give it time," Martinez advised. "Maddox lost his partner recently, probably being extra cautious. Or maybe he doesn't trust me." Dean smiled grimly, filing his report. Trust was earned, and Bryce already proved himself unworthy. That evening, Dean confronted Emily directly. "We need to talk." She looked up from her laptop, typing what looked like texts. "About what?" "About where you've really been spending evenings?" Emily's face went through micro-expressions: surprise, fear, calculation, defiance. "I don't know what you mean." Dean placed printed GPS screenshots on coffee table. "These are from the tracking device in your car. Every evening, 3 weeks, you've driven to remote locations, stayed for hours. Care to explain?" Emily stared at papers, breathing shallow. "You've been tracking me? Like a criminal? Like a husband who noticed his wife lying about whereabouts?" "This is insane, Dean. You're paranoid." "Stress of losing Marcus." "Don't!" Dean's voice carried absolute authority. "Don't lie anymore, and don't use Marcus's death as excuse for your betrayal." Emily's composure cracked. Tears streamed as she buried her head in hands. "Never meant for this to happen. But it did. With my partner, in my squad car." She looked up sharply. "How did you—" "The earring was just beginning, Emily. I know everything. Then you know I love you." "This doesn't change 20 years. Dean's laugh was bitter. "Changes everything. You chose to deceive me with someone I trust with my life daily, chose to make me a fool in front of my department community. No one knows. Everyone knows. Small town, Emily. People see things. They talk." Emily wiped eyes, smearing makeup. "What do you want me to say? I'm sorry? I am, but I'm tired of feeling invisible in my own marriage. Tired of competing with your job, grief, walls. So you decided to sleep with a 25-year-old? He makes me feel like a woman instead of furniture. And that justifies destroying our marriage?" Emily's tears stopped, replaced by defiant anger Dean never saw before. "Yes." Next morning, Dean visited Patricia Wells, the county's most ruthless divorce attorney. Known for scorched earth tactics and securing favorable settlements for wronged spouses. I need to file for divorce, Dean said, placing manila folder on her desk. Adultery. I have evidence. Patricia reviewed GPS data, audio recordings, photographs with professional detachment. This is quite thorough, Sergeant. Your wife's attorney will have difficulty disputing this. I want her to get nothing. No alimony, no shared assets. I want her to understand actions have consequences. Law requires equitable distribution, but with adultery evidence, we can't argue deviation from standard 50-50 split, particularly if marital funds facilitated the affair. Dean leaned forward. What do you mean? Hotel rooms, restaurants, gifts? If your wife spent joint money on her relationship? We can characterize it as marital waste and seek reimbursement. She bought new clothes, gym memberships, expensive cosmetics, all after the affair started. Patricia smiled like a shark. We'll need documentation, credit statements, receipts, anything showing unusual spending coinciding with affair timeline. That afternoon, Dean submitted anonymous tip to Internal Affairs, alleging Officer Keller used department vehicles for personal activities and potentially engaged in conduct unbecoming. Investigation would be discreet but thorough. Department SUVs had GPS tracking and dash cameras reviewable for policy violations. Dean also began spreading carefully crafted rumors among colleagues, not malicious gossip, but strategic concerns about Bryce's judgment. Kid seems distracted lately, he mentioned to Chief Grant during weekly briefing. Missing report details, showing up late to calls. Really? His academy scores were impressive. Academy's different from street. Maybe he needs more seasoning before complex assignments. Chief Grant nodded thoughtfully. Department reputation was crucial in small towns. Any officer misconduct required careful management. Following week, Dean escalated psychological warfare against both Emily and Bryce, scheduled patrol shifts keeping Bryce busy during Emily's gym hours, disrupting their meetings. When Bryce complained about scheduling, Dean feigned concern. Everything all right? You seem anxious about off-duty time. No, sir. Just maintaining consistent workout routine. Fitness is important. My wife's become quite the gym enthusiast herself. Funny how people change priorities. Bryce's face flushed, but said nothing. Dean began leaving subtle evidence of his knowledge around the house, parking where he could observe Emily's movements, asking specific questions about activities, mentioning coincidental details suggesting surveillance. Psychological pressure had intended effect. Emily became increasingly paranoid and short-tempered, jumping at unexpected noises, checking phone obsessively. You're making me crazy with suspicious behavior, she accused one evening. Either confront me directly or leave me alone. I thought I did confront you. You denied everything. Because there's nothing to deny. Really? Then you won't mind if I check your phone right now. Emily clutched phone protectively. That's private. Private from your husband of 20 years? Standoff stretched like a loaded weapon. Finally, Emily stormed out, slamming bedroom door. Dean smiled grimly. Pressure was working. Next day at station, he implemented next phase. During morning briefing, Dean announced he'd volunteered himself and Keller for specialized training with State Police Tactical Unit. 2-day program focused on high-stress situation management, he explained to Chief Grant. Good experience for rookie. Sounds valuable. When does it start? This weekend. We'll take Unit 23. It has updated radio equipment. Chief Grant approved without hesitation. Dean chose Unit 23 because it was due for brake maintenance, fact discovered reviewing fleet logs. Friday evening, Dean loosened brake line connection on Unit 23, just enough to cause gradual fluid loss. Not enough for serious accident, but sufficient to create dangerous situation, rattling Bryce's confidence. Training facility was 40 miles away on winding mountain roads. Dean insisted Bryce drive, claiming he wanted to evaluate vehicle handling skills. 20 miles in, brake pedal began feeling spongy. Bryce noticed immediately. Something's wrong with brakes, Sarge. What do you mean? Pedal's going soft. Might have fluid leak. Pull over. Let me check. Dean examined brake system with theatrical concern, pointing out minimal leak he'd created. Looks like slow leak. We can make it to training if careful, but need it fixed before driving back. Maybe we should call for another vehicle. And mistraining. This is important for your career development. Besides, I've driven vehicles in much worse condition in Afghanistan. Just keep following distance long. Use engine braking on hills. Rest of drive was tense. Bryce gripping wheel while Dean offered calm reassurance, secretly enjoying his partner's anxiety. Arrived safely, but Bryce was visibly shaken. During lunch break, Dean called department mechanic, arranged Unit 23 towing, citing safety concerns. Mechanic would find loose brake line, assume normal wear. Professional drivers always report mechanical issues immediately, Dean told Bryce, waiting for tow truck. Good catch on brake problem. Bryce nodded, but Dean saw him wondering if he'd missed something during pre-shift inspection. Training exercise focused on crisis decision-making under pressure, exactly what would test Bryce's rattled confidence. Dean volunteered them for most challenging simulations, knowing Bryce's performance would suffer. During hostage negotiation roleplay, Bryce made several tactical errors, instructors noted. Dean offered supportive feedback publicly, while privately noting each mistake. Don't worry, kid, he told Bryce, driving home in replacement vehicle. Everyone struggles with first advanced training. Marcus made similar mistakes at your age. Really? Sure. Key is learning from criticism, not taking it personally. But Dean saw Bryce was taking it very personally. Young officer's confidence was cracking under accumulated pressure of difficult assignments, equipment failures, performance evaluations. Back in town, Dean implemented next phase. Created fake email, sent anonymous messages to town council members, alleging inappropriate conduct by unnamed police officer, suggesting Chief Grant conduct thorough personnel review. Messages were vague enough to avoid specific accusations, but detailed enough to prompt official concern. In small towns, any police misconduct hint required immediate attention, maintaining public trust. Chief Grant called Dean into his office Monday. I've received concerning communications about potential officer misconduct. Nothing specific, but enough to warrant internal review. What kind of misconduct? Messages mention inappropriate relationships and usage of department resources. Probably just rumors, but we need thorough investigation. Dean nodded gravely. Absolutely. Department reputation is paramount. Want me to conduct preliminary interviews? That would be helpful. You know officers better than anyone. If there's inappropriate behavior, I trust you to identify it. I'll be thorough and discreet. Following days, Dean interviewed every officer about adherence to department policies regarding personal conduct and resource use. Interviews were professional and routine, but created atmosphere of suspicion, making everyone uncomfortable. When interviewing Bryce, Dean was particularly thorough. Any personal relationships creating conflicts of interest with duties? No, sir. Any department vehicle used for non-official purposes? Only authorized activities, sir. Any citizen interactions that might be construed inappropriate? Bryce hesitated just long enough for Dean to notice. No, sir. Good. Department reputation depends on maintaining professional standards always. After interviews, Dean submitted confidential report to Chief Grant, stating while he'd found no serious misconduct evidence, Officer Keller seemed unusually nervous during questioning and might benefit from additional supervision and training. Report wasn't damning, but planted doubt seeds about Bryce's reliability and judgment. That evening, Dean confronted Emily again, this time with legal documents. Divorce papers, he said, placing them on kitchen table. Filing for dissolution based on adultery. Emily stared at papers, face pale. Dean, please, we can work through this. Counseling, therapy. Time for counseling was before you decided to betray 20 years of marriage. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Emily. It was a choice. Multiple choices. Every lie, every secret meeting, every text, all choices. Emily's composure cracked again. What do you want from me? What will it take to fix this? It can't be fixed. Trust can't be rebuilt once completely destroyed. So that's it? 20 years thrown away because I felt neglected and made stupid decision? You felt neglected, so you decided to sleep with my partner. In my squad car? Emily flinched as if struck. It wasn't like that. Then explain what it was like. Quiet for minutes, tears streaming. Finally, she whispered, He made me feel young again? Like I mattered to someone? You mattered to me. But that wasn't enough, was it? Emily shook her head. I don't know anymore. I'm so confused and scared. And you should be scared, because I'm going to make sure you understand exactly what your choices cost. Dean left her at table with divorce papers, drove to Bryce's apartment complex. Young officer lived in modest one-bedroom near college, attracting young professionals and graduate students. Dean parked across street and waited. 9:30 p.m., Bryce emerged, drove toward downtown. Dean followed at distance, police training making surveillance second nature. Bryce parked outside Murphy's Tavern, bar popular with off-duty cops and city employees. Dean watched him enter, then called Emily. "Where are you?" he asked when she answered. "Home. Trying to process these divorce papers you dropped on me?" "Stay home tonight, Emily. Don't go anywhere." "Why would I?" Dean hung up, continued watching bar. If Emily was home, then Bryce was drinking alone, suggesting their relationship was causing him stress too. 11:45 p.m., Bryce emerged clearly intoxicated, fumbled with keys, nearly dropped them before unlocking his car. Dean immediately called dispatch. "This is Sergeant Maddox, possible drunk driver heading north on Main Street in blue Honda Civic. License plate." He read Bryce's number. Within minutes, Officer Martinez pulled Bryce over 6 blocks from bar. Dean positioned himself where he could observe without being seen. Field sobriety test was administered professionally. Bryce failed miserably. Blood alcohol 0.12, well above legal limit. As police officer, he'd face criminal charges and departmental discipline, potentially ending his career. Dean watched Bryce being handcuffed, placed in Martinez's patrol car, young face twisted with shame and desperation. Kid's life was about to implode. Probably didn't understand why. Next morning, Chief Grant called emergency meeting. "Officer Keller was arrested for DUI last night. As his training officer, I need your assessment of his character and judgment." Dean adopted grave expression. "I've been concerned about Bryce's stress levels recently. He seemed distracted, made several minor judgment errors. I hoped it was rookie nerves, but this suggests deeper problems. Drunk driving is completely unacceptable for police officers." "Absolutely. If Bryce can't maintain professional standards in personal life, how can citizens trust him to enforce those same standards?" Chief Grant nodded grimly. "I'm recommending termination. Mayor won't tolerate this embarrassment, especially with anonymous complaints we've been receiving." "I think that's right, Chief. Department reputation must come first." Leaving Chief Grant's office, Dean felt grim satisfaction. Bryce's career was effectively over. Young man probably still didn't understand his orchestrated downfall. But Dean wasn't finished. That afternoon, he visited Patricia Wells again, reviewing divorce case progress. "Emily's attorney is requesting mediation," Patricia informed him. "They want to negotiate settlement without trial." "What kind of settlement?" "Standard asset division, limited alimony, shared custody of joint debts. Basically minimize divorce financial impact." Dean shook his head. "No settlement. I want this to go to trial. I want Emily's adultery to become public record." "That's unusual, Sergeant Maddox. Most people prefer settlement privacy." "I'm not most people. Emily chose to make our private business public when she conducted her affair in police vehicle. Now she can face public consequences." Following weeks, Dean began liquidating joint assets not protected by court orders. Shared savings, investment portfolio, valuable personal property were systematically converted to accounts in Dean's name only. When Emily discovered missing money, she confronted him angrily. "You emptied our savings. That's illegal." "I'm not stealing anything. I'm preventing you from spending joint funds on your affair, which would constitute marital waste under state law." Emily's face flushed with anger. "You're being vindictive and cruel." "I'm being strategic. You chose to play games with our marriage. Now you're learning I'm better at games than you are." Divorce trial was scheduled 6 weeks later, giving Dean ample time to prepare final moves. He used time gathering additional evidence, coordinating with Patricia to present most damaging possible case against Emily. He also began spreading word throughout community about upcoming trial, ensuring Emily's adultery would become public knowledge. In small towns, reputation was everything, and Dean intended to make sure Emily's was completely destroyed. 2 weeks before trial, Bryce made desperate attempt to contact Dean directly. Young man waited in police station parking lot until Dean finished shift. "Sergeant Maddox, I need to talk to you." Dean looked at Bryce with cold disdain. Former officer looked haggard and desperate, uniform replaced by civilian clothes hanging loose on his diminished frame. "I don't think we have anything to discuss, Keller. Please. I know you know about Emily and me. I know you've been systematically destroying my life. Your life was destroyed the moment you decided to betray your partner and badge." Bryce's eyes were wild with desperation. "I never meant for any of this to happen. Emily was lonely. You were distant. It just happened." "Nothing just happens. Every choice has consequences. You chose to pursue my wife. You chose to lie to my face daily while pretending to be my partner. I was falling in love with her." Dean laughed bitterly. "Love? You were sleeping with married woman in police car. That's not love, that's selfishness and stupidity. Bryce's desperation turned to anger. You set me up, brake failure, DUI arrest, internal investigation. All of it was you. Prove it. I don't have to prove it. I know it was you. Dean stepped closer, voice dropping to whisper. What you know and what you can prove are two different things. Your disgraced ex-cop with drinking problem and poor judgment history. Who's going to believe your paranoid theories? Bryce's hands clenched into fists. Dean could see him calculating whether violence was option. Dean hoped he would try. Charges would be perfect capstone to Bryce's destruction. But Bryce wasn't that stupid. He stepped back. What about Emily? She's going to lose everything too. Emily made her choice. She chose excitement over stability, validation over loyalty. Now she gets to live with results. Bryce turned and walked away without another word. Dean watched him go, feeling no satisfaction, only cold resolution. Young man's life was effectively over, but that had been inevitable from the moment he decided to betray his partner's trust. Divorce trial began on cold Tuesday morning in November. Courthouse was packed with curious townspeople, drawn by scandal rumors involving police department. Dean had made sure word spread about salacious details that would be revealed during testimony. Patricia Wells presented Dean's case with clinical precision. GPS evidence, audio recordings, photographs, financial records. Every aspect of Emily's affair was documented and presented with devastating effect. The defendant systematically deceived her husband while conducting adulterous relationship with his professional partner, Patricia told the judge. She used marital funds to facilitate this affair, lied repeatedly about activities, and showed complete disregard for impact of her actions on her husband's career and reputation. Emily's attorney, young public defender David Chen, struggled to present effective defense. His client had been caught in multiple lies. Evidence against her was overwhelming. Your Honor, while Mrs. Maddox's actions were certainly inappropriate, they were a result of marriage that had been deteriorating for years. Her husband's emotional distance and work obsession created an environment where she felt neglected and invisible. So she decided to commit adultery with her husband's partner, the judge asked skeptically. She made a mistake born of loneliness and desperation, but that mistake shouldn't cost her everything she's worked for over 20 years of marriage. When Emily took the stand in her own defense, her testimony was painful to watch. She alternated between tearful apologies and desperate attempts to justify actions. I never meant to hurt Dean, she sobbed. I was just so lonely and felt so invisible in my own marriage. Bryce made me feel young and desirable again. It wasn't planned. Things just happened. Multiple times over several months? Yes. Using your husband's trust and access to facilitate these encounters? Emily's voice was barely audible. Yes. And you lied to your husband repeatedly about your whereabouts? Yes. Using joint marital funds to purchase clothing and other items to enhance your attractiveness to your lover? Yes. Patricia's examination was methodical and brutal. By the time Emily left the stand, her reputation was in ruins and her legal position hopeless. Dean's testimony was brief and devastating. He spoke in measured tones about discovering the affair, his attempts to salvage the marriage, and Emily's continued deception. I trusted my wife and my partner with my life, he told the court. They chose to betray that trust in the most personal way possible. The damage to my professional standing and personal dignity is irreparable. The judge's decision was swift and harsh. Emily would receive no alimony, minimal shared assets, and would be responsible for her own legal fees. The adultery finding would remain part of the public record, effectively destroying her reputation in the small town. Mrs. Maddox, your actions showed complete disregard for your marriage vows and your husband's position in the community, the judge stated. The evidence shows systematic deception and use of marital resources to facilitate an extramarital affair. This court finds your conduct inexcusable. Emily collapsed in tears as the verdict was read. Her sister Darla helped her from the courtroom while Dean watched impassively. Outside the courthouse, local news cameras captured Emily's humiliation for the evening broadcast. Dean gave brief statement about moving forward with his life and focusing on his law enforcement career. That evening, Dean drove to the remote turnout where Emily and Bryce had conducted their affair. He parked in the same spot where he'd first witnessed their embrace and sat in silence for several minutes. From his pocket, he withdrew the emerald earring that had started everything. The tiny inscription, Forever D&E, caught the moonlight as he held it up. He walked to a large pine tree at the edge of the clearing and placed the earring on a prominent root. Beside it, He left a handwritten note. "You dropped something." "I didn't." As he drove away, Dean felt no satisfaction, only emptiness. Emily had lost her marriage, her home, her reputation, and her future. Bryce had lost his career, his freedom, and his dreams. Both had paid the price for their betrayal. But Dean had lost something too, his faith in the people he'd trusted most. The victory felt hollow because it couldn't restore what had been taken from him. The radio crackled to life as he drove home. "All units, domestic disturbance on Elm Street, reports of screaming." Dean reached for the microphone, then hesitated. After everything that had happened, he wasn't sure he still had the heart for protecting and serving a community where trust could be so easily shattered. But duty called, and Dean Maddox had never been one to shirk his responsibilities. "Unit 47 responding," he said into the radio, his voice steady despite the weight of everything he'd lost and everything he'd won. The story was over, but life continued, and sometimes that was the harshest consequence of all.